Hey, what's going on everybody? This is TheJackedex, and today we are going to have a look at Castlevania the television series, and we're going to take a look at the recent announcement that the Sonic the Hedgehog Archie comics have been cancelled, and we are moving on to IDW Publishing. Now, as a forewarning, this is completely unscripted, and I might make this a little series of videos just to try and fill in the blanks of the weeks when I'm doing my other videos, just so I can give you guys my opinion about any upcoming gaming news or any comic news that I'm interested in and I feel like that I want to talk about. So, since the Castlevania TV series came out with its first season, and I had the chance to have a look at it, I thought I might as well take a look at it, and someone on one of my comments channel, on one of my comments on my Castlevania 2 video, I should say, suggested that I talk about it, and I'm just going to go in completely blind with what I want to talk about. I only have notes stashed up in here, and I'm just basically going to be rambling, so yeah, here we go. TheJackedex Unscripted. So I guess we should talk about Castlevania the television series first, because that's just the first item on our list, and just because I have the Castlevania wallpaper on my PC right now. So the Castlevania Netflix series, season 1 came out quite recently, I think about 3, maybe 4 weeks ago, maybe a month, I'm not entirely sure. The point is that it came out recently, a lot of people have been talking about it, and from what I hear, a lot of people seem to really enjoy it as a video game to television adaptation, particularly since it is Castlevania. And I know we've had a lot of video game to television adaptations in the past. Ooh, whoops. Sorry. I know we've had a lot of video game to television adaptations in the past, like with Sonic the Hedgehog, Mario, The Legend of Zelda. There was Captain N the Game Master, which I never watched, and I don't think I will. I think there was a Kirby anime at some point. I think it was called Right Back At Ya in the 4Kids dub. We of course have Pokemon, which is still going to this day just because it's Pokemon. Of course it's going to keep going. And I think that was it. There are the video game movie adaptations. Only 2, maybe 3 of them I've seen. I remember watching Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat at a friend's place, and I thought they were alright. Then I have the Warcraft Blu-ray, which for a Warcraft movie it's alright, I guess. As a standalone film, it could be better. It's a bit convoluted. But it's the visuals are really good. I like that, and I like the Orcs. The Orcs are my favorite faction, so there you go. But now we have the Castlevania TV series, which is an animated series done, I think it was actually an independent web series at one point, and it just sort of evolved and grew into a television series that started off with its short first season with 4 episodes that went for about 25, maybe 30 minutes at the most. And obviously it's an adaptation of Castlevania 3, Dracula's Curse. I think it's Dracula's Curse, maybe it's the other way. No, it's Dracula's Curse. I'm thinking of Simon's Quest, where there was an actual curse in that one. It makes you think, why they didn't just call it Dracula's Curse in that one? I don't know. And yeah, as a person, as someone who is a casual fan of Castlevania, I've only played, I've played the classics. I've played Castlevania 1, 2, 3, 4, Rondo of Blood. I haven't played Bloodlines yet. I hear that's pretty good, if a little bit different. And of course there's Symphony of the Night, which is probably my favorite, just because it's a Metroidvania. I'm a fan of Metroidvanias, and it's just a lot of fun. Anyone who is not a Castlevania fan or a Metroid fan, I believe, can pick up this game and have a lot of fun. You look at my brother, he hasn't played a lot of Castlevania or Metroid, he loves that game to death. Yeah, so we have this adaptation of Castlevania 3, Dracula's Curse, which starts with, which tells the story of Trevor Belmont, but it doesn't start off with Trevor Belmont in the first episode, which I was kind of interested about, because it actually starts off with Dracula's second wife. I think her name is Lisa. It's Lisa, yeah. Lisa, who was mentioned and was even seen in Symphony of the Night, and she is the biological mother to Alucard, Dracula's son. And just like in the games, in the TV show, she was a doctor who helped people. I think she had some form of alchemy involved, I'm not entirely sure. But the church believes her to be a witch. They burn her at the stake, and with her dying words, she tells Dracula to not harm the humans because they don't know better, and they don't. The humans are fucking terrible in Castlevania. They're like full of themselves and just prideful, and the church, the way they portray the church, I think it was done really well, but oh man, I think they were probably a little bit cruel towards the church, but I'll get to them in a second. So the first episode is kind of an establishing arc to why Dracula has rained war on the humans, and it was already established in I think it's called Lament of Innocence or something like that. It was one of the PS2 games that before Dracula became the vampire that he was, he used to be a human called Matthias or something, and his wife died, and like he revoked God, and he like got involved with dark magic or something and became Dracula, being like, oh, humanity will die by my hand, oh my fangs. And yeah, so it was just at that point where he just rained war against the humans. God, the sun. I apologize for the lighting. The weather's a little bit unpredictable, as it always is in Australia. And yeah, so she's burned, and not 5 minutes after she's burned and everyone is celebrating, having an orgy or whatever, Dracula appears in a fiery form. The way they animate Dracula in his fiery form is beautiful. I thought it was animated really well. It legitimately gave me shivers. Like, my hairs were standing on my arm when that happened. It was really well done. And he says, in a year's time, I will come and wreck your shit up, so get your asses out of Wallachia, or whatever it's called. I have trouble pronouncing that name. I'm so sorry about nixing the names. And the people do just that. And yeah, it's a year later. Demons come out, they kill people, and it is bloody. It is, like, there's decapitations, there's demons eating people. There's like a scene after in the second episode after we're introduced to Trevor Belmont, who's a bit of a drunk, and you know, he's capable, but he's not like a perfect fighter. He can still stumble, he can still make mistakes, which I thought was really good, because for Castlevania players, I don't think you can get a perfect run on your first go, because Castlevania is hard, so it kind of just relates in a meta sense, I guess. And yeah, Trevor goes, I think it's probably the city of Wallachia, it's probably a different city, but it's a city that's close to Transylvania, or close to where Dracula's castle is. And he approaches the city, and you can hear screams, and then it just cuts to like all these people who are waking up with their husbands, like, eyes gouged out or like bloodied, and like their baby's gone, and there's like blood left behind. It's just screams and sadness, and it's like they get the tone of Castlevania down really well. Even though like NES Castlevania, with the limitations they had with color and how goofy the enemies could look, you could still feel a gothic kind of tone. And you know, as you just like played through and you got closer to Castlevania, and because of the difficulty made it feel like that you were on pressure, because it was a genuine worrying feeling that you didn't want to die. That kind of added to the horror element a little bit. But no, the look of the animation and just the show itself, I think it's really well done. There's effective use of lighting and shadows, and the animation, especially when they have to animate for fight scenes or with the whip. The whip especially, I thought they got really well done, because I can imagine it's really hard to do a whip, because you have to be really well trained to be able to use a whip and to be able to see how it works with the way it lashes and like it grips on the people, and to get that snapping effect when Trevor gouges out that person's eyeball, like that legitimately made me go, ooh. Oh, I could imagine feeling that. It's like, goddamn. Um, the character designs, I thought they were really well too, and I think it's cool that they got to have their own. That they got to add the. Okay, let me rephrase my statement. I think it's cool that they managed to implement the art styles of the artists who did Symphony of the Night. The one who did this art style here. I'll post a picture up here just to see what I'm talking about. It's kind of cool how they managed to implement this art style, but they still managed to animate it in a way that's done the same way in the direct-to-DVD DC animated films, where it's like it's easy to draw and like have a lot of fluid and fast animation going, but it has like a consistent and natural feel to how the characters move when they walk normally or how they talk. And yeah, I think it's done really well, especially with the voice acting. I thought the voice actors they got to do for Trevor and Cypher and Alucard and Dracula, I thought they did really well. I guess my only real problem with Castlevania is that just because it is an establishing season and it did go on for 4 episodes for one season, that is a bit of a problem, because I would have liked it if maybe each season, or maybe 2 seasons, are focused on one game each. Like, you could have... I would probably like it if season 1 were about maybe 10, 13 episodes long, and where they ended was around maybe halfway through the castle. Like, as the series went on, they could establish the history of the Belmonts, of Cypher, of Alucard, and of what's his name, the thief or the pirate. I forget what his name is, because from what I understand, that thief, he has like a major role in Wallachia being destroyed, and he helps rebuild it at the end of Castlevania 3. So I think it would be cool to introduce this other character in maybe episode 5 or maybe episode 6, and then just sort of build upon the foundations of the establishment and introduce new characters and new eras of time, and maybe show the progression of Dracula, you know, trying to bring in even more powerful forces, or trying to find new ways of getting rid of the Belmonts, or trying to, you know, become ruler of the world. I think had this season been a little bit longer and we got to have a little bit more time with the characters, not to say that we didn't get enough, we got plenty with Trevor and Cypher, but the 4th episode, spoilers ahead, I should mention, in the 4th episode, in the final episode of Season 1, we're introduced to Alucard, and he and Trevor Belmont have a bit of a hissy-fit fight, which is a really good fight, actually. I shouldn't say it's a hissy-fit fight, it's done well. You know, after a while they just decide, oh, you know, we're fighting for the same thing, we gotta kill my father, and, you know, what is a man... I think it would be cool if the season were a little bit longer and we got to see more of the castle. I think it would have been cool if we saw a little bit more of the castle, because it's called Castlevania, and a lot of the series does revolve around Castlevania, and I think it will also be cool to sort of dive into the ideologies and the philosophies of God and religion and the perfection of man, and how, you know, not everyone is perfect, and how what is morally and ethically good between what Dracula does, what the humans do, what the church does. Oh, with the church, yeah. I think the way they were done, I think it was done pretty well how they made them corruptible, but maybe they made them a little bit too cruel, and I don't know if they were that cruel back in the time, but I don't know. I just feel like, you know, they're being a little too harsh on Christianity in this respect, but, you know, I'm not familiar with that era of time. Maybe they were like that. Maybe they did enforce their will and their ideologies of what the way to God was, and maybe they were that cruel to people who didn't follow it, and maybe they did burn people at the stake that they thought that their methods were most unorthodox, and blah, 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 blah. I just think there could be more explored there, because I'm interested to see how the creators would like to take a jab at that, or maybe create a non-biased commentary on that sort of thing. So, yeah, that's my stand on Castlevania Season 1. I think it's done pretty well. I'm looking forward to the second season. I know that's been renewed for a second season. And I want it to go a little bit longer, not 4 episodes for goodness sake. If you're going to do 4 episodes, do it in the way that, like, I don't know, The Flash does it, or with Sherlock, where it's like an hour and a half or something. I know it takes a long time to animate, especially for an hour and a half, but I don't know, you've got a pretty good audience, you've got a good reception. I imagine if you can get some more animators on board, people who are really passionate about this project and who really want to tell a good Castlevania adaptation story, I think it can be done. So, yeah, those are my thoughts on Castlevania. Now on to our second discussion of today, Sonic the Hedgehog comics being officially cancelled from Archie and moving on to IDW. Now, I don't know about you guys, but the instant that issue 291, Sonic Mega Drive Overdrive was cancelled, and all those others, and the fact that we got nothing for 3 months, so from January to April, I knew straight away that this was going to be cancelled. Like, this sort of shit happened last year when there was an unexplained hiatus for some of the comics not coming out, and while I am glad that they managed to ship them out on time, we did manage to finish the Sonic Unleashed story, which took forever to get through. As much as I do love that story, it took forever to get through because of all the world building you had to do and all these new characters you had to introduce. It took forever to get through. And where we left off with issue 290, it was a Sonic CD adaptation. It was more like the beginning of Sonic CD up until the point where Sonic saved Amy from Metal Sonic and Stardust Speedway, and only now he decides, oh, gotta get those time stones. It's like, yeah, you're coming close to Metallic Madness now. You're not getting the time stones, I'm afraid. And with Sonic Mega Drive The Next Level, we ended with Eggman getting all the ancient gears, Metal Sonic being powered up, and the team had no choice but to go and find the Chaos Emeralds, which I was looking forward to seeing, because firstly, I love Tyson Hesse's artwork, and what's his name? Mark something? I can't remember his name, but the guy who does the coloring, Matt Herms, that's it. Matt Herms, the guy who does the coloring, I think those two work really well. It's done very effectively. And Ian Flynn, the guy who writes these stories, who's been writing these stories for so long, ever since issue 160, God, he's done at least over 200 issues at this point. He knows how to do a good, independent, new Sonic video game experience to a comic. And it was fresh and new to see this new storyline where Eggman has to collect ancient gears to power up his new Mega Drive. Yes, there are times where Ian Flynn can go a little bit overboard by trying to put in a bunch of references and callbacks to other games and Sega materials, like advertisements and licensing, like, welcome to the next level, Eggman's powering up his Mega Drive, and he goes a little bit overboard with that, and it does get redundant, but I know people like it, so no, I guess I can't fault him for that if it's effective, so there you go. And yeah, so Sonic the Hedgehog, Sonic Universe, and now Mega Drive, they were getting cancelled, and like I knew it would eventually happen, but the problem is that the way they handled the cancellation was bad, because think of it this way, it took up to about a week, 2 weeks ago for us to finally get the confirmation that the Sonic comics have been cancelled, and now IDW is teaming up with Sega to create a new licensed Sonic comic and it took them 6 months to get this news out. And I knew that they were going to cancel it because there have been several statements that had been released regarding the tone and the direction of Sonic, which wasn't Archie. Now, Archie Comics, for a while they used to be really good at publishing just Archie comics. At the moment, those are the only comics that I think that they're doing, aside from Josie and the Pussycats, what the hell am I saying? Josie and the Pussycats, Betty and Veronica, Jughead, and the new Archie reboot that came out about a year ago. And I had been reading them for a while, and I thought they were okay, but it wasn't something that I would personally go out of my way to read. And then there was the Riverdale TV show that was coming out that they really wanted to advertise and really push for people to see. And from what I understand, it had been done really well. The marketing was done really well. And in fact, Archie was more concerned about pushing for this new TV show that they had no idea was going to do well or not, instead of focusing on their money-making brand, which was Sonic the Hedgehog. And from my understanding, Sonic the Hedgehog was selling really well. In fact, it was one of the best-selling Sonic the Hedgehog comic series that was going on at the time. And then they were also doing Mega Man at the time. And I have the Mega Man comics, I have the Sonic comics right now, and they are good. They're really good books. And from the people that I've talked to who've read those books, they say they're really well. They look forward to reading those every month. Back when they were coming out, and back when there wasn't all this bullshit lawsuit, all this advertising that was going on. And I know I'm suddenly bringing up the lawsuit because that was the other reason that they probably had to cancel the comic. No, not probably. They had to do, because fucking Ken Penders, whether you like him or not, I think he's fine. I think he's a fine guy. I don't have any grievance or like neglect or hate toward the guy. I think his artwork for Sonic characters I don't think meshes well because it's too human-like. And I know you can do very human-like animal characters in other series like Bucky O'Hare and Star Fox and stuff like that, and stuff like that is fine. Sorry, my phone again. That stuff is fine, and I've seen some of his artwork on his own Twitter with Star Trek and all that. His artwork in Star Trek is really good. I think that's where his focus and art needs to be. And I myself am one of the people who is angry at the fact that he tried to take these characters that he established for the Knuckles the Echidna series with Julie Sue, Lara Sue, and Dimitri, and the Dark Legion, and Jeffrey St. John, all of that crap. And he was also trying to take like Knuckles the Echidna and Sonic the Hedgehog for his own stories. The problem is, he doesn't own those characters. He doesn't own Knuckles the Echidna or Sonic the Hedgehog. He owns all the other characters like Julie Sue, Lara Sue, Dimitri, because those are his. Alright, by legal rights, they are his, so he's allowed to use them in his own stories and as his own property, because they are his, and he has the right to do whatever the hell he wants with them. I know that there is a legal statement that when you sign on to write for characters for a series, they do belong to Sega. I don't know the exact process for it. I'm sure someone in the comments who's very good at law and legal rights for characters in comics can probably explain that better than I can. But from my understanding, Lara Sue and Julie Sue, all those other Echidna characters he created along with Jeffrey St. John, Hershey, I think Hershey is his character, they are his. He's allowed to do whatever the hell he wants with those characters because they are his, and Sega and Archie don't have any real control over that. So there was that. There was the fact that they wanted to push for the Riverdale series, which had a vastly different tone to the regular Archie. It's like a crime fiction teen drama. Weird approach for Archie, I know, but that's what they want to go for. I hear the show is doing well. I haven't bothered to check it out because I don't really care about Archie. But yeah, it was just weird for me that they didn't try and focus on Sonic the Hedgehog to be the pushing, like, money-making brand that they had been doing for the past couple of decades. But I had heard that management and like staff behavior, not staff behavior, but the way they like treated staff, I heard was pretty bad. And there was this woman who like enforced a lot of rules and regulations and had abused male staff members, especially with writers and artists, and that's what led to some of the writers leaving Archie, which is understandable. You don't want to stay in a place that you're not comfortable with, that you feel persecuted or discriminated against. That's totally fine. But yeah, I don't understand. I don't get this whole idea of Sonic the Hedgehog is not the Archie tone we're going for. Because as far as I understand, Archie and Sonic have a fairly similar tone in terms of lightheartedness. Like, you could keep both. Even with Mega Man, it was lighthearted. Yeah, there could be dark stuff, but Archie has some dark stuff going on with its teen drama and, you know, all this romantic bullshit that Archie does in the current series. Oh man, it's like back and forth with Archie. He does not make up his fucking mind. I don't get why they would let go or try to not focus on a character, on a series that does so well to bring in an audience that gets you money, and you just decide to let it go and not focus on it. I think that was mishandled greatly. I think what they should have done is at least try to get to issue 300, and then, I don't know, just make that the big hurrah. I know that Ian Flynn wanted to do more because it was clear that the next story he was going to do after his adaptation of Sonic 3 and Knuckles, he was going to do some character establishment arcs with Antoine and Bunny and Sally and the rest of the Freedom Fighters, and I would have loved to see that. But no, apparently the tone is just not what they want to go for with Sonic the Hedgehog. It makes about as much sense as a tadpole being able to do a tap dance routine, but there you go. Archie doesn't want to do it. Honestly, I'm happy with where the series has gotten to. It's reached 290 issues. That is a huge landmark in a comic series ever. That makes Sonic the Hedgehog one of the longest running video game comics ever. Probably even the longest running video game comic series ever to reach the 200s. Nearly 300. And it's been going for at least 23 years, probably. It's such a landmark, and you know, it's sad that they're going to stop here, and I am a little sad that we won't get to see Bunny and Antoine and Rhoda and Sally and Nicole, because they were one of my favorite independent characters that they brought in for that series. But, you know, Archie doesn't want to do it. They still have the rights to those characters. Whether IDW can purchase the rights to those characters and implement them into the new series, maybe even just continue on the series and just put it into, and just let IDW handle it. Maybe bring in Ian Flynn and Tyson Hess and Matt Herms and all these other great artists, Patrick Spaziante. You know, I hope IDW does well, and I'm looking forward to their own adaptation. Maybe it won't be a continuation of Archie's Sonic comics. Maybe it'll be something entirely new. I honestly hope it is something new, because, you know, there's only so much of the Freedom Fighters I think you can do, and I think it's time that Sonic has a change. The same can't really be said for Sonic Forces, and you know, when I get around to talking about Sonic Mania and Sonic Forces, I'll talk about what I want to talk about in my review when they're released. I don't want to talk about anything that hasn't been released and I don't get a full picture of what it is. So there you go. Those are my views on the Castlevania Netflix series, and my viewpoint on Archie letting go of Sonic and IDW taking him on. To summarize, Castlevania is great. I actually would like to hear your guys' opinion on that, and I'm honestly glad that Archie has let go of Sonic, just because they've mishandled him badly, and I'm glad that IDW is going to take a shot. And I think IDW is the right people to hand the Sonic rights over to, because they do some really good stuff with TMNT, My Little Pony, Transformers. I think they do Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and all these other great series. I think in their hands, Sonic will have a very refreshing and fruitful experience with those guys. So let me know what you guys think about today's topics. Let me know if there's anything that you disagree with, or if there's another topic let me know if there's a topic that you guys want me to talk about, maybe with just other video games and other comics, maybe film. And yeah, until the next Sonic the Hedgehog comics, the Mega Man comics, and the Knuckles the Echidna comics that I've got coming up for next week, probably, maybe not this week, and the upcoming Shantae series, let me know in the comments below. Until then, take care of yourselves, have a good evening, and as always, stay awesome, lovely viewers. See you all next time.